A lot of people keep asking me, what's going to happen to the Dear Future Wifey podcast when you get married? Well, I know some of y'all have seen on social media my big announcement. I am engaged. I try not to address the negativity because I love to celebrate all the love that has been surrounding me. Now, this is some stupid comments I've seen. He's making this all about him. I seen somebody say, it's the next thing to do to help save my podcast. I'm not gonna say I do when I know deep down inside I don't. I saw a video one day that said, I had a failed engagement. I've never been engaged. The reason why he's keeping her private is because he don't want people in the past to come up and mess up his situation. I said, I don't have no situation. People are so used to toxicity that they'll take something that's healthy, that's beautiful, that's God-centered, and then project their insecurities. Let me get back on my future wifey. I know that my purpose is attached to my future wife. And that's the reason why I had to take my time and choose carefully, choose wisely this woman who I will be exchanging vows with. I felt like that from the moment I met her. The reason why I am doing what I am doing is because I want her to have the wedding of her dreams. Back in 2020, we sponsored 3 couples getting married. And God told me, if you think that I'm not gonna take care of you because you blessing other folks, he said, watch what happens when it's your time. This platform was my personal journey to discover, uncover, and recover love, and she is the love that was recovered. What greater gift to have her look absolutely beautiful, to know that I did everything in my power to use the platform that God has curated for her, a gift to her. I love the fact that y'all are being encouraged by the fact that I proposed to the love of my life. I seen a comment that said, this is for us. The only person that could ever say something like that is a person that understands the heart posture of God, that you got to celebrate other people's wins and to know that if he did it before, he can do it again. The hardest thing for me not to do is reveal my future wife. She and I had a conversation and I said, would you like to say something to the Dear Future Wifey audience? And she said, I would love to. She said, Dear Future Wifey family, the Dear Future Wifey podcast has global impact. From Texas,
I have been on this journey of healing and self-discovery, and this podcast has been a vital part of my process.
Guyana,
God's establishing through you a legacy, a display of freedom found in authentic spirituality.
California,
I've learned so much as a single man through your podcast and continue to learn so much as now a married man.
Nigeria.
This is just therapy for me. I've been healed. I've been strengthened in my convictions. I've understood how to do singlehood better.
Amsterdam.
The way that you've shown us how it is possible for a man to be as intentional as you are.
New Jersey.
I appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate just being able to see that there is life after divorce.
To New York.
I am a single woman, so these episodes really give me hope and courage that God does have a husband for me.
Discover, uncover, and recover love. I'm Laterras R. Whitfield, and this is season 10 of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm your host, Laterras R. Whitfield. Listen, are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, can we get a commitment? Hit that subscription button and subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified about upcoming episodes. You know what? I know y'all not used to seeing me on this side of the studio. Well, occasionally I decide to do episodes where I just take a moment to chop it up with the Lit fam. Those that are new to the podcast, that's what I refer to you guys, those supporters who are living intentionally and transparently. When I launched the Dear Future Wifey podcast in 2020, I said I wanted to accumulate a group of people who believe in keeping it lit. It's living intentionally and transparently. So I know some of y'all have seen on social media my big announcement. I am engaged. Yes, I am engaged, and I am so excited about it. To catch y'all up, I proposed to my woman July the 13th, Sunday, at Cali Worship. It was where I did the Dear Future Wifey podcast in November of 2023, and it was there that I met her in the audience. Yeah. I can't wait to have her on the podcast so she could tell us side of the story. So if y'all saw the Essence magazine, matter of fact, I'm going to put the Essence magazine article, a link to that in the description so you can check that out. Y'all been on this journey with me for 5 years. For 5 years. And it's been an interesting journey. I cannot say that I've kept the faith every step of the way. Sometimes I've gotten weary in my well-doing. I question God. I question moments. I question how long am I going to stay single? Contrary to popular belief, who people believe, or some people believe, I see a lot of videos about it, that Laterras don't want to get married. That has to be the biggest lie. Because at the end of the day, I know that my purpose is attached to my future wifey. And that's the reason why I had to take my time and choose carefully, choose wisely this woman who I will be exchanging vows with. This woman is uniquely different from every woman I've ever encountered. I feel like she has been taken from me. In the engagement, I said to her, I feel like my body is calling itself to itself. And that's what I felt like. I felt like that from the moment I met her. I felt that there was a drawing towards her. And even though we remained platonic friends for about a year and 4 months, a year and 4 months back in March. So about March the 18th is when we went on our first date. And so, we went on our first date then. We were always just platonic friends, talking on the phone. I talked to her about women I'm dating. She'll talk to me about guys she dating, just built a strong platonic friendship. And then I had this dream that I couldn't shake. And so I called her to get some understanding and clarity about it. And in the conversation, I said, you know what? Let's try to see if this could be more. When are you available in March? I want to take you out on a date. And we've been out to eat, like I said in the past, just sitting down, breaking bread when I traveled to LA. But I said, this I want to be more intentional about. She was open to it. And that day, I was like, yeah, I want this to be forever. This is who I want to spend forever with. Now, actually, it started before then, but I had to manage my expectations and say, you know what, let me see what God is saying. Let me see what God is doing. And had to submit to her being open to it as well. And so, like I said, we'll get deeper into the weeds as the time comes. November the 22nd, when we get married. Yes, a lot of people keep asking, what's going to happen to the Dear Future Wifey podcast when you get married? Well, it's going to still exist. She will just join me on the podcast. I'll be redesigning my set where I'll have 2 couches where she and I can sit on the couch as we interview other couples and singles. And we're just going to keep it moving. That idea came because I was talking to a major network and they were wanting to license the Dear Future Wifey podcast. And they said, what happens when you get married? I said, oh, well, my wife and I will start a new podcast and I will knight another bachelor to take over Dear Future Wife. And they were like, hold on, that doesn't even make sense. Why would you have built all of this and then put somebody else as the host of the podcast? What if people don't want to see them? I said, well, I mean, my journey would be over. They said, well, what would be wrong with just her joining the podcast and you continue on so people can go back, look from when the podcast first started, the inception of the podcast, and see your journey as a single man and how you manifested love in your life. And I said, you know what? Okay, that does make sense. They're like, yeah. So they said, yeah, just keep it, bring on the podcast. So that was about 2.5 years ago. And I decided to say, you know what, let me listen to wisdom and do as they said, which makes a whole lot of sense. And even though we didn't even broker a deal with that podcast network, I realized that God allowed me to hear that conversation so that I didn't abandon the call that God has for us on Dear Future Wifey. I've seen some comments and I try not to address the negativity because I love to celebrate the positivity and all the love that has been surrounding me with this new journey. Every time I think about it, I smile, as y'all see. But as I think about this new journey with my future wifey, I seen comments where people, now this is some stupid comments I've seen. I've seen somebody say, and this is funny because I always get Ladarian. So Ladarian is my nephew who I adopted. I know y'all have seen him on the podcast before. The infamous wig video, he was the one that did the switching for that when we were recording that. But he has a YouTube channel, a couple of YouTube channels, and I've always been trying to use moments that I go through as a teachable lesson for him. And so I say all that to say that we were driving in the car and I pulled up some videos because he was so happy about me getting engaged. I said, and I want you to know, because I want to always give you a dose of reality. A lot of times when we are celebrating, other people are hating. And so I said, let me just pull up this video so you can hear what people are saying. So I pulled up this one video and this lady was just ranting and saying that I'm getting married because it's the next thing to do to help save my podcast because of the episode that went viral a few months ago from the Steels. And they're saying that he's just getting married because he got so much pushback from that. And Ladarian, as young as he is, he's 16 years old. And his exact words was, that don't even make sense. That has to be stupid. Why would you get married because somebody is saying something negative about a whole nother couple? He said, wouldn't that be dumb that you wouldn't be able to sustain a marriage like that? Because if you marry somebody you don't care about, you don't love, you're going to end up getting divorced. She's going to take half of what you own. So why even put yourself through that? And I said, out the mouth of babes. I said, how in the world is a 16-year-old man, young man, able to think like that? And I asked him, I said, well, where you know about taking half and where you know this? He said, I watch TikTok. He said, I watch a lot of TikTok videos, and it doesn't make sense to get married to somebody that you don't love if it's going to end in divorce and you got to go through all the split of finances and everything goes. And I said, it's amazing how Ladarian, with very limited dating experience, with him being young, don't know anything about marriage on that degree, had enough common sense to know that my motive and intention isn't to save some podcast, especially the same podcast y'all just heard me say that I was willing to leave because I wanted to knight another bachelor over the podcast, and then my wife and I start a whole nother thing from scratch. I'm sharing that with the Lit fam because I always want y'all to know, which y'all, I'm probably beating a dead horse because y'all already know my intentions. Y'all been rocking with me forever. But just when you see stuff like that, I want you to have the heart posture of knowing that the enemy is always busy to try to destroy and come against what God has created. And so I want to encourage y'all in your own personal life. I know you have people that look at your good intentions and have it evil spoken of or try to question your motives around stuff. And I just want you to be rooted in that. I want you to be rooted in knowing that only what you do for Christ will last. And any other ill motive, any other foul intention that you may have, that you can't trick people for too long anyway, that is going to crash and burn. And so I know y'all know the intention of the Dear Future Wifey podcast has always been what it always is, which is to edify, to uplift, to build, to encourage singles to understand the brevity of marriage, for people that are married to understand that what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. And hopefully it was God that joined y'all together. That if you are divorced, that God can give you do-overs. He can give you a second chance at love. Heal before you say, I do again. And so the Dear Future Wifey podcast, as I've always said, especially at the beginning of school, I said, beginning of school year, I'm getting ready for Laterran to go back to school. So I'm saying school year. I can't wait for him to go back to school. I know he probably don't like me saying that. But at the beginning of this year, I said, I want to see marriage rates increase in the Black community. And I want to see divorce statistics decrease while providing tools so that we can do relationships better. That is the heart posture. That is the mission. That is the goal. And so during this journey, we've been learning. I've been learning. What y'all don't realize is that on the Dear Future Wifey podcast, I'll say this. I'll just go ahead and say this. My publisher maybe get mad at me because we ain't ready to launch the title of my book that's coming up, but we just been transparent here. So the heart posture I have for Dear Future Wifey was to sit as a student and learn from people. That's why when people call me relationship expert, I always shy away from that. I always shun that title because I don't look at myself as an expert. I'm a student. I'm learning from my mistakes. I'm learning from the mistakes of other people. I'm learning how to communicate while I'm on the podcast, to hear, to listen more than speak. I'll share this with you. Well, let me say this real quick. So as a student, I sat and gleaned information and wisdom from all these guests that have been on the podcast. And I wrote a book called Student of Love. So in September, you're going to hear that amplified very loud with a lot of promotion and marketing. Shout out to HarperCollins W Publishing for giving me an amazing book deal. They truly saw me. They saw the God calling over my life. They saw the mission. They saw the mandate. They saw the mantle. And I just thank y'all so much, W Publishing, for that huge God wink. So one of the things when I started the podcast, I said, God, I want you to teach me to be a better listener. In all transparency, I used to listen to respond instead of listen to listen. And I remember in the earlier days of the podcast, I would see comments where people say, gosh, you're such a good listener. Gosh, you're an amazing listener. And the reason why that was so powerful is because that was a secret prayer that I had with God, is to become a better listener. And to know that God was teaching me that while sitting. So let me tell you the key to this. As y'all notice, when I interview people, I have no notes. I have no notes. I don't know what I'm going to say to them. I'm forced to listen to them or the episode would fall dead. So I would just sit there and listen to them. I will re-ask a question, rephrase it, dig deeper by the question. And what it did, it made me a better partner to actually date, because I can learn so much about somebody by listening. The Bible says, be slow to speak and just quick to listen. And so I would find myself just listening to people, and I'm listening to what they're saying. I'm listening to what they're not saying. I'm listening to the nuances behind the words. Why did they choose this word and not that word? I become very keen in listening. That was one other part about the Dear Future Wifey podcast through this journey that brought about healing. Another thing is being extremely vulnerable and transparent. I've always been a person that has been very vulnerable, but I haven't been the type of person that could be very transparent. And when I say transparent, I mean about my weaknesses. I could be transparent about anything else, but to sit in front of everybody and share your mistakes, share the growth that you're experiencing in real time, y'all know that got to be hard. And you see why it's hard, because the minute that people hear something I struggle with, then they cast judgment and I can't believe he's doing this and he's doing that and he's a Christian. But then they don't remove the plank out of their own eye. And every time that would happen, God said, but I got you on assignment. Keep doing it. And then God would answer, because someone would DM me, giving me asking for advice or giving me a praise report saying, man, I thank you so much for you sharing what you were going through, because I'm going through that same thing. And then I'll be able to minister to them one-on-one in my DMs, or video call the brother on IG video. And so I will watch so much ministry work that will go and take place, and still does, behind the scenes. But again, I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to take whatever your testimony is and share it. Why? Because in Revelations it said, people will overcome by the word of your testimony and by the blood of the Lamb. Let me get back on my future wifey. She and I had a conversation prior to this recording, and I said, would you like to say something to the Dear Future Wifey audience? And she said, I would love to. So let me just, before I read this, let's see. No, I'll read it first. And then I'll elaborate. She said, Dear Future Wifey family, from the moment I said yes to being Laterras' wife, I also said yes to being a part of this beautiful community, a family that believes in love, faith, and the sacredness of marriage. As the mystery bride, I've been overwhelmed by the outpouring of support, prayers, and yes, even the hilarious posts and videos where y'all have zoomed in on every glimpse of my hands and feet. Let me tell you, I've laughed right along with you. The creativity and humor of this community has truly warmed my heart and made this journey even more special. Being hidden in plain sight has been a unique experience. I watched from behind the scenes as you all speculated, celebrated, and stood by Laterras with such genuine love. Your kindness, and patience have meant the world to me. It's rare to find a space that uplifts marriage, holds it sacred, and roots for couples with such intentionality. That's what makes the Dear Future Wifey podcast more than just a show. It's a ministry, a movement. I'm beyond excited to finally meet you all. I look forward to joining the podcast and lending my voice to the important mission of increasing marriage rates in our Black community. This journey isn't just about Laterras and me. It's about all of us standing together, changing narratives, and showing that Black love, grounded in God, is not only possible, but flourishing. Thank you for loving us through the unknowns, for championing marriage, and for embracing me even before knowing my name. I'm honored to step into this new season with you, hand in hand, heart to heart, with love and gratitude. The mystery bride, but not for long. She said, and not for long. That's what I'm talking about. I hear comments and read comments where people say, he's making this all about him. Let's think about how logical that is. So I like to just talk about stuff that just don't make sense. What man on this earth, and I'm just going to tell you the process of engagement. The process of an engagement is the man decrees and declares that this is his wife, whether he does that publicly, privately, or whatever, puts a ring on her finger and asks her to marry him. He doesn't have a ring on his finger. See, I still don't have a ring on my finger. She walks around with a ring on her finger. So the man, fortunately and unfortunately, no one can see that he's engaged. No one knows he's engaged. He walks around, he goes to work, unless he publicizes it, you have no idea that this man is engaged. He can walk away and live his single life. I say all that because I've seen a comment where someone said, the reason why he's keeping her private is because he don't want people in the past to come up and talk and mess up his situation. I said, I don't have no situation. See, y'all so used to so much drama. And I say y'all, meaning the negative people, not the lit fam. But some of these people are so used to so much drama that, let's unpack this. If that was the case, what is stopping women from creating videos right now that go viral, starting YouTube channels and telling all my business? It don't exist. I made sure that I kept my hands clean. And so the reality is, people are so used to toxicity that they'll take something that's healthy, that's beautiful, that's God-centered, and then project their insecurities, project their toxicity, project their fears on a relationship that's not possessing any of that foolishness. And so the reason why I am doing what I am doing is because I want her to have the wedding of her dreams. Let me tell you something. Those that have had weddings know that weddings can get extremely expensive. Extremely expensive. People spend tens of thousands of dollars for one day. And my goal is to be a good steward over the finances that God has given me and her. So it just made sense to try to create something that would attract brands to come sponsor the wedding. Now, how did that come to be? If you look on this channel, on the Dear Future Wifey podcast YouTube channel back in 2020, we sponsored 3 couples getting married. I spent $12,000 out of my own pocket for it. And let me tell you what happened, is that during the pandemic, a lot of couples' weddings were canceled. And my daughter was going to get married, and so I had this venue. She decided she didn't want to have a big wedding. She wanted to have something very small, intimate, about 20 people. So I had this huge venue that I already had a deposit on. So I felt like I heard God tell me, go ahead and bless other people and help them get married. So I did this big call out on Facebook at the time and said, who wants to get married, whose wedding was canceled. And we had 3 couples have a group wedding. Shout out to Pastor Wilford, who officiated that wedding. And we put this wedding on in a matter of like 2 weeks or something. It was real short. You look at the video, I said in that. But after I went through all that and I spent $12,000 of my money to help bless other people getting married, and then other people came and donated and helped these couples. So I couldn't have done it without them. But I spent 12,000 hard-earned dollars out of my pocket to bless other folks. And God told me, if you think that I'm not going to take care of you because you blessing other folks, he said, watch what happens when it's your time. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be very transparent with you. Sometimes I'm extremely pessimistic when it comes to the promises of God. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm being transparent and vulnerable. Sometimes I am pessimistic when it comes to the promises of God. Because I really be hearing things that God says, and I go, nah, not for me. Not for me. Nah, maybe I didn't hear him say that. Maybe I mean, he gonna, come on. He gonna bless me and pay for my wedding whenever that time comes. So now I'm in that season to walk out the promise. I'm in that season to go from the wilderness into the promised land. And I will not dare say, I'd rather be back in Pharaoh's house. I'd rather be back in Egypt. I'm headed to the promised land. And so walking to the promised land is to bless this amazing woman. This is her first marriage. To bless this amazing woman, just drop the clue. To bless this woman with a wedding that will blow her mind, to make her feel like a queen. What greater gift to give to her with her humility and submission to walk through this thing of being called the mystery bride, and then to have all eyes on her when she walks down the aisle, because we're going to stream this wedding live. What greater gift to have her look absolutely beautiful, to know that I did everything in my power to use the platform that God has curated in the last 5 years that was for her, a gift to her. This platform was my personal journey to discover, uncover, and recover love, and she is the love that was recovered. And to bookend this journey by saying, here, let's celebrate you as loud as you can be celebrated, as beautifully as you can be celebrated, as big as you can be celebrated, and try to spare no expense. The live stream will be free. I'm not going to charge. I've seen people charge people to watch their live stream. I'm not going to do it. I've always given to y'all. I don't ask y'all for much at all. As y'all know, I get criticized a lot because I haven't monetized my platform on the level that it should be monetized. And I struggle with that. I struggle with that a lot. Y'all probably seen episodes where people like, what? You need to do this better. And I'm like, I know, but I struggle with that a lot. I'm a giver, always been a giver. And so I always look for ways to give to you and not try to take from you. So we're live streaming the wedding, which I love the fact that she is in agreement with it. She was like, oh yeah, absolutely. As y'all heard the letter, she is so open to giving. You know why? It's because she came to know about me through the podcast. She was watching the podcast, I think about a year before we ever met. And so this is what I mean by how God will prepare the heart of your mate. I want y'all to hear that. I want you to be encouraged that whoever your purpose partner is, God is preparing their heart. We always hear that God will prepare a table before us in the presence of our enemies, but I want to encourage you to know that God is preparing the heart of your purpose partner to be able to receive you so that they can see you, so they can understand you, so that y'all can be speaking the same language. You go, hold on, how are we just now meeting? It sounds like you're talking to yourself. That's when you know that God is in complete alignment with who he connects you with. I know you've seen it a lot. You've seen couples, they ain't known each other but a week. And you meet them, you like, how long y'all been dating? Y'all been together for a long time. They're like, no, actually, this is our second date. And you like, second date? I thought y'all been married. Because you can see it. You can see the unity in them. Sometimes you see a couple and they just look the same. You be like, y'all sure look similar. That's because they were bone of their bone and flesh of their flesh. And that's what I'm so privileged to have in my future wifey, AKA the mystery bride. Is someone who's in alignment with what God is doing with this ministry. She doesn't look at this ministry as a singular ministry, meaning it's my ministry. It's our ministry. It's going to be our ministry. It's going to be what we are able to do and do great exploits together. Y'all have always heard me say, y'all can look at this platform, celebrate its success, and I give God all the glory and the praise for all that he's done. When this video drops, I think while I'm recording this, I'm at 625,000 subscribers when my goal was only to hit 100,000. I'm at 625,000 subscribers. But that pales in comparison to what God is going to do when he connects me with my future wifey and she joins this platform and people are able to see the power of God, the power of unity, to know that y'all have cried with me, y'all have journeyed with me, y'all DM me and talk about the tears that y'all shed about relationships failing for y'all, getting weary where you feel like there's no person out there for you. Y'all have gone through issues with infertility with my guests on the podcast. Y'all been here every step of the way. And now you'll be able to witness me linking up with my future wife and being able to see what my choice looks like, what my choice sounds like, what my choice acts like, what my choice prays like, what my choice praise like. Not just pray, but praise. And so I'm excited for y'all to be on this journey with me. I'm looking at I have a Patreon, and this is only the way I'm gonna get motivated to just start releasing content. Because a lot of content I don't want to release to the public, but I get so many DMs where people are enjoying this journey. And so I'm going to breathe life into my Patreon. I know y'all hear me say that a lot, but this time it's for real. I'm finna get real intentional on my Patreon because what I want to do is this. I want to develop a cohort of supporters so that I'll share this with you because she and I talked about this and she was like, why don't you do this through your Patreon? So listen to this. I'm gonna tell you how dope this woman is. I said I wanted to not only stream the wedding, but I want to allow people to come to the wedding, and we're looking at venues, maybe between Dallas or LA. We're still deciding where, but the venue will be able to hold a substantial amount of people that other people can come. Now the reception will still remain private, but the wedding, we want to open the doors and allow other people to witness it. And so she said, why don't you breathe life into your Patreon so you can see who's really supports you and then allow them access to come to the wedding. And I said, all right, because she said, I only want people there that really support you. I don't want people there that are been there to be salacious or whatever. I want a group of people around me on my special day that I know is rocking for us. And I said, all right, I hear you. I respect that a lot. And so that's what I'm ending up doing. I'm gonna start putting behind the scenes footage on my Patreon. And so I'm gonna drop a link in the description. I want y'all to go join the Patreon and become a strong supporter of the Patreon. And we're gonna let y'all know where the location is gonna be at. Y'all will know, and probably only y'all will know. And y'all be able to actually come to the wedding, physically at the wedding. Isn't that dope? That's why I say you gotta have a unique woman that's willing to do that. When I tell you, that's let me tell you why that's so important. Because I know that weddings are so important to women. But if you're so focused on the wedding, then you forget about the marriage. Let me tell you what I love about this woman is that, yes, she wants her wedding to be special. Yes, she wants the wedding she wants to feel like a queen walking down the aisle, which she would. But she also said, I understand what you've created with your audience. And I want you to allow them to come to the wedding so that they can share in this special day. But she said, now let me give you a caveat. I don't want just everybody there. I want people that support you and rock with you. And I said, okay. So to have that mindset, to be ministry minded, ministry focused, it's just another moment that confirms I'm marrying the right person. That I'm marrying the person that is aligned with my heart, that's aligned with the vision, it's aligned with the mission. We always hear that there can be no submission unless there's first submission. And I've laid out my mission with this woman of God very clearly. She laid out her mission, her goals, her desires very clearly. And we share the same heart posture. That really gets me emotional because I understand how hard it is to find people. You can find really good people. I met good people. She's met good people. You date all these people and you go, but is this the person I'm supposed to marry? And then a Kairos moment happens where these two souls from different walks of life, different backgrounds, come together. A conversation is had. And then God begins to weave together interconnectedness between two hearts that become tethered to each other. I used to say to her in the beginning of us dating, marriage is a miracle. And when I say miracle, it's not just a miracle on staying together. It's a miracle of coming together. It is extremely difficult. I remember Whitney said this. She said, and I'm talking about Jess Whitty, not Whitney Houston, but Jess Whitty, she said she had to push past herself. That we are always challenged in relationships to push past ourselves, to push past our own thresholds, to push past our own triggers. Because if we're honest with ourselves, we'll say, oh no, I can't deal with this. And when you really unpack it, you'll realize that's the reason why you're not married, because you can't deal with nothing. Because marriage requires you to deal with some things. If they're not total deal breakers, if they're not going against your core values, then deal with it. Look at the person as God sees them and say, is this a person that God has brought in my life to even be a mirror? Because a lot of stuff that we can't deal with, you can't deal with facing yourself. Relationships, God-ordained relationships, will require you to face yourself in the mirror. To face yourself in the mirror, to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? This person is reflecting things in me that I need to overcome. I love this person enough to overcome it, to heal through it, to grow from it, or not. Or you say, it's not worth it, they're not worth it, and I'll move on. And when you find yourself being the common denominator in every failed relationship, you got to take a moment to look at yourself and say, okay, everybody keeps complaining about this in me. They keep saying that I have this issue. At some point, you got to fix it. So this journey has been very discouraging at moments, but it's also shown me the consistency of God. It showed me that God hadn't forgotten about me. Stefan and Iman, they said he remembered. In their episode, he talks about God remembering them. It's the most beautiful thing to be remembered by God. I've captured so many gems from the Dear Future Wifey podcast guests that I'm able to bottle up in my gem bag, GEM bag, and apply it in this engagement, apply it in this marriage, apply it with you guys when y'all are asking me questions or, leaning on me for advice. I just tell y'all what I know. And I always lead this. This is what I experienced. This is what I went through. And hopefully you can learn something from it. Let me think of something else. What else would I like to address in this moment? I saw a video one day that said I had a failed engagement. I've never been engaged. That is not true. I wasn't engaged. So that's not true. What else? Like I said, I'm just going to take time to address things that I've seen. You know what? I think that's pretty much it. The only thing that I've seen that just the motive of getting married. This would be good to talk about because y'all got to hear this from a man's standpoint. And I want y'all to hear this. You can't force a man to get married. You can't. There's nothing you can do to make that man marry you. It's not going to happen. You can give an ultimatum, but how many times have that worked? There's people that have gotten ultimatums and the person be like, all right, well, deuces. You can't force a man to marry you. Now, I will say there has been exceptions where somebody done gave a man an ultimatum and then he married him. But I'm telling you, overwhelming 90-something% of men will never marry you just because you done told them that he got to marry you. I say all that to say, it's not a podcast. It ain't a failure of me thinking I'm going to lose my podcast behind. So let me address that real quick. I can't lose a podcast behind negativity because that's not what created my podcast. You can't counsel something that you didn't endorse. When I hear people say, oh, well, counsel this because he interviewed this person and counsel it. You can't counsel what God endorsed. You can't do it. Like, and this is what I want to encourage y'all about. If you cannot exalt the negativity that comes your way, don't exalt that. You could sit there and look at comments. And this is what happens sometimes with just human psyche. You can read comments. It can have 200 comments. 190 can be positive. And the 10 that's negative, our brain will focus on the 10 negative instead of celebrating 190 positive. The way I operate is, and Ladarian can attest to this, and a lot of my friends, they be like, you be reading these comments and just laughing at it. I said, because it'd be funny to me. I said, this stuff be so funny because these people don't have a clue. As y'all saw on the podcast, I had a guest on my podcast that said Laterras ain't interested in being with nobody. He ain't interested in getting married. But she didn't even know I was intentionally dating somebody at the same time. That's why I would just sit there and listen. I'd be like, it's not true. It's not true. And also think about this. While that interview was going on in March, it was an interview that happened in February with the Millers, Jamal and Natasha Miller, who prophesied that I would be connected and getting married to my wife this year. So here it is, two different voices. The voice of God prophesying destiny, and the voice not assigned by God speaking against the will of God over my life, as well as questioning my intentions with what God is telling me in my life. Old folks used to say, whose report will you believe? And so I would just chuckle at that stuff. I would laugh. I would hear people say certain stuff about me on social media. I would just laugh. And I said, I can't wait till they see. I'm going to tell y'all something. The hardest thing for me not to do is reveal my future wifey. You got to think. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of that is rooted in ego. I can be honest with you because I want to prove to everybody. Look, see, told you, look at it. This is my wifey. Look at how we're connected. Look how beautiful she is. Look how she thinks. I want to just do that. But I had to go against my own natural propensity to try to prove to people and sit back and see what God is curating behind the scenes. And so I'm taking my direction from God. A lot of people say, oh, Laterras is just a marketing thing. He's just so great at marketing. Well, I am great at marketing. I'll be honest with you. I am great at marketing. But this isn't a marketing moment. This is a movement for me to see if what I heard from God last in 2020, sponsoring other people's wedding, did I hear him correctly and creating this opportunity for our wedding to be sponsored. I shoot from the hip. I'll tell you exactly what it is. That's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to see. Because Lord knows I ain't got no money to be paying for all this. Good Lord. Good Lord. It's so expensive. And so, another thing that I will tell y'all is some people, when I showed the video, they didn't see if anybody was there at the engagement. I had 30 people there. Her closest friends and family were there to witness that. Her mom and I, we made sure that we chose the people that needed to be there that she would love, and that she was in so many tears, just crying, seeing how that moment happened. Y'all don't think I want to show y'all that? Man, let me tell you something. You talking about marketing. I would love to show y'all that, to show y'all the whole proposal, to show you everything. So you can be like, okay, you did that, Laterras. That's why it ain't about me. It's about me trying to create a moment for her wedding. Well, our wedding, but her wedding, because I'm doing all this to try to bless her and blow her mind. So yeah, I'm not going to be before you long. I'm about to wrap this up. LaDarren, how long have I been talking? 43 minutes. 43 minutes. Good Lord. Trying to get to 60 minutes, but I don't be liking just talking to myself. So let me tell you this, the reason why I like talking to myself. When we did the Dear Future Wifey podcast, when it first started, I said, I did a couple of episodes talking by myself, and I hated it, and it sucked. And I said, I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm rambling. And so I said, I got to have guests. And so in the middle of the pandemic, I started calling up people when we were supposed to be socially distanced or whatever. I said, I ain't going for all that. Y'all going to come here, and we're going to do this episodes. And if y'all go look back at the beginning of Dear Future Wifey, that was in the heart of the pandemic. And we were doing episodes with guests in studio where places were locked down. And yeah, I just did that. But again, God's hand over it. Nobody came on my podcast, got COVID. I never contracted COVID from anybody on my podcast. And it was just God just creating this beautiful moment of healing, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and a protection of healing physically on our bodies. So it's all these things that were happening behind the scenes that kept showing me that God was always in the details of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. So that's another little fun fact that happened. Again, as you see stuff on social media, respond, say something. If you hear people lying and saying certain stuff, comment and be like, nah, that's not even him. Stop lying. Stop lying. Don't do that. Because as Christians and believers, we got to start being better gatekeepers with things that we experience and know that we've been blessed, and we know that God is covering whatever that is. You need to stand guard and be like, no, not that one. I had people call me up and DM me like, hey, hold on now, they ain't gonna be talking about no Dear Future Wifey. And that used to be so funny. And but they'll be defending me in the comments or whatever, which, hey, if y'all the people that defend, thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all, because we got to always come against the attack of the enemy. The devil is busy, and there's nothing that he wants more than to tear down what God is building. Nothing he wants more than to do that. And so shout out to y'all for being gatekeepers and defending my honor and defending the heart posture and the mission of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I want to conclude this by just encouraging y'all. When I do these singles events, it really grieves my heart when I see how many women outnumber the men. It's an embarrassing percentage. And it breaks my heart, because I look and I go, wow, that is the biggest indicator of what the struggle is, where you look at the ratio for men to women and all that. And it really grieves my heart. So I just want y'all to know that I'm looking to find a solution, to find out how can I get more men involved and start really discipling and talking to them and trying to figure out what language I need to do to draw more men at events. And this is what churches have problems with. This is what a lot of singles events have problem with, period. So I'm just asking God and seeking God for direction to help try to solve that. And not just any men, but men that will treat y'all well emotionally and spiritually, as well as physically. So I'm looking for that. But I say all this to say, I hear you. I hear your struggle. I hear your journey. I love the fact that y'all are being encouraged by the fact that I proposed to the love of my life. Y'all not salty about it. Y'all not mad about it. Y'all not hating on it. Y'all said, I seen a comment that said, this is for us. Who says that? Who says that someone else's engagement is for all of us? The only person that could ever say something like that is a person that understands the heart posture of God. That you got to celebrate other people's wins. And to know that if he did it before, he can do it again. That God is the giver of life, the giver of blessings, the giver of miracles, signs, and wonder. So, thank you for celebrating this proposal, my soon-to-be bride in this marriage. Use that as fuel to inspire you, to encourage you, to know that God hadn't forgotten about you. Use it. Get extremely intentional. Start declaring things over your life. Last September, I started declaring that I was going to get married by the end of 2025 with no prospects in sight. I started saying, I'm going to get married. And let me tell you, it was an episode that I did with Egypt Sherrod and Mike Jackson on their podcast. And at the beginning of the podcast, I said, I'm going to get married by the end of this year. We shot this in March. I said, I'm going to get married. And then by the end of it, by about 10, 15 minutes later in the conversation, I said, well, if I'm not married, I'll at least have a ring on her finger. And then Mike called me. I said, hold on. You just said you're going to be married by the end of this year. No, keep that. Keep that. I said, oh. He said, own it. I said, and I got nervous because I was like, can God do it that fast? And the minute he told me to own that, I said, God can. I wasn't racing against a deadline. I'm not going to say I do when I know deep down inside I don't. Especially having gone through a failed marriage. Why would I do that? Then why? Just think about this. I'm just going to entertain something. I know I'm supposed to be encouraging y'all, but I just want to unpack this real quick. I've been divorced. I did a whole TED Talk back in 2021 about the likelihood of divorce in second marriages. So I know the statistics on that. I'm going to willingly go take vows with somebody with a platform as big as I have to have a public failure because that marriage don't work. And then people are discouraged and saying, see, man, nah. This process was extremely intentional. I went through therapy with Love McPherson. I went through 3 months of therapy. She and I, me and my future wifey, went through 3 months of therapy with Love McPherson, and we unpacked everything. Everything. Oh, we talked about everything. Because what people don't understand is this. Before there's ever premarital counseling, for me, I desire pre-engagement counseling. Why do I say that? It's because I don't want to go through all the hoopla, all the beautiful gestures, all the talking to the parents and getting the blessings of friends and family and going out to go get a ring and try to orchestrate this beautiful moment to propose to her, only to know that she said yes, but we haven't dealt with the real stuff that's going to even get us to the altar. Doesn't make sense to me. It's not a wise investment. Doesn't make sense. Because I can go get this nice ring and then it falls apart when we start going through premarital counseling. Don't make sense. It's not wise. Shout out to Philadelphia Diamond Company for curating this amazing show-stopping, stunning ring. I'm gonna get them on the podcast. I want to talk to this dynamic couple. They are absolutely amazing. But why would I do all that? To then, it don't even make it to the wedding. Or we make it to the wedding, stay married a year, 2 years, 3 years, and then go through a divorce. I don't have time to go through another divorce. I don't have time to waste. I would just stay single. I'm telling you, that's the reason why I was single. I said, I am going to be single until God brings me the right person, and I better know it's God. And how do I know it's God? Is when I put that ring on her finger. Ain't been no other woman with a ring on their finger since the woman I got married to. And I've been divorced going on 10 years in December. Be 10 years. So I was very intentional about this process. I sought wise counsel. I had my pastor, shout out to Pastor Evan Connor and Sharice Connor. I had them come over, talk to her, meet with us to give their blessing. I talked to her dad. I talked to her mom. This is powerful. I talked to my kids. Let's talk about that. Let me tell you one of the things. I want to save this for later, but I'll just say this real quick. My daughter, Laterras, I think this was in 2019 or 2020. She was watching Israel Houghton and Adrienne Ballion. She was watching the YouTube, she was watching I don't know if it's YouTube or Instagram of Adrienne cooking or doing something with Israel Houghton's daughter. And, and her bonus daughter. So she said, I want, whoever you marry, I want to have a relationship with her like Adrienne has with Israel Houghton's daughter, which is Adrienne's stepdaughter. I don't like using step, but bonus daughter. And I said, And she just said that to me. Never forgot it. I just said, that's good to know. The way my future wifey shows up in Laterras' life, checks in with her, talks to her. She knows stuff about my daughter I don't even know, that current stuff that's going on. I'd be like, what? And we went out to eat one day, and Laterras said, you remember when I said? I said, I remember. And she was like, wow, that's how I feel with her. Messed me up. Ladarian does not warm up to people easily. He doesn't. I understand why. He's been through a lot of trauma when it comes to the foster care system and, things with, as he was being raised without sharing all his business, but he's been through a lot of stuff when it comes to, stuff like that. So we don't trust people that quickly. And so one of the things he said to her, he said to me, before he ever said it to her, he was like, yeah, I rock with her. And then after he got a chance to really meet her and be around her, he was just like, one day, I guess that was about a week ago. Darren, was it a week ago when you told her you love her?
It was like a week ago.
A week ago. I just let him talk on the phone. I let them talk on the phone in this moment. She was helping, giving them advice about how to show up his senior year and how to reach his fullest potential. And Darren said, thank you for taking the time out to talk to me and to help me do better. And he said, I love you. I was in the room when he said that, and I walked out of the living room into my bedroom, and I just cried. Let me tell you why that's important. Because LaDarren witnessed me dating one of the most toxic women I could have ever dated years ago. This was in 2015 to 2018. Don't even share this story often. I don't even share it much at all. But 2015, 2018. And he would always say stuff like, anytime he heard me dating somebody else, he said, I hope she ain't crazy like the other woman. And I'll be sitting there, I'll be like, I hate that he had to witness that. And so to hear his stamp of approval, to tell me and confirm that I chose wise, and I made a great choice, and it's somebody that he respects, somebody he honors, whew. There's no greater validation. Because he has to live with her till he graduates and go to college or whatever. He will be present in the home with her. And so it meant the world to me to know that he sees her, he values her, he respects her, and he loves her too. So as y'all single parents date, when you're vetting these guys, when you're vetting these women, listen to how they speak about your kids and see if they use terms like, those are your kids. If they speak like that, they're letting you know they've already disassociated themselves from what should be y'all's kids. To know this woman sees my kids as her own was a cherry on top. It was a non-negotiable. I didn't try to force it. I just let her be her. I'm going to share this with y'all. Now I'm just telling all my business. One day, she came to visit, and, you know, every time she comes, she'll talk to Ladarian and spend time with him. But in the earlier stages, one day the whole day, we just sat around the house, and Ladarian stayed in the room the whole time, as teenagers do. And that was the last day that she was here at that time, and so she was flying to go back home. And when I was taking her to the airport at 5 a.m, she said, God convicted me. I said, about what? She said, because we sat in this house all day yesterday, and I didn't see Ladarian's face or speak to him, and he stayed in his room the whole time. I said, well, that's just how teenagers are. You know, teenagers, you got to get used to that. Teenagers ain't going to be coming around to do this. She said, but that's not okay for me. I said, well, if you ever feel like you want to, feel free to go knock on his door and go talk to him. She said, okay, I just don't want to overstep my boundaries. I said, no, you're not overstepping anything. Matter of fact, he would appreciate that. She said, that's all I need to know, because I just don't like that. I got to see his face. I got to see how he's doing. I got to check and make sure he's okay. Did I ever tell you that, Ladarian? That conversation that she had about she wanted to make sure that she sees you before she ever leaves. She don't want a whole day to go by without talking to you. No. Yep. Yep. At that moment, I said, oh, she's the one. She's the one. And it was heavy on her. I said, it's okay. You ain't got to, I mean, it's not that serious. She said, it is though. I said, good Lord. So thank you, future wifey, AKA the mystery bride, for operating with such a nurturing spirit, for caring, for loving, not just me, but my kids. Thank you. Oh yeah, back to encouraging y'all. Again, be encouraged. Don't go weary in your well-doing. Know that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you could ever ask, think, or imagine. November the 22nd is approaching extremely quickly. Make sure you go visit the link in the description, join the Patreon so you can get an inside look. I'm going to be dropping videos on how I prepared my home for my future wifey, how I bought a home, how I decorated it in preparation for her. I'm going to show y'all all kinds of stuff. I'm going to show y'all when I travel to go see her, and I'm going to show y'all a whole lot. It's going to get extremely personal because I want y'all to join this journey. All right, y'all. God, this was beautiful. Hope y'all got value out of this. I hope y'all got an inside look into my heart, my life, my journey. I want to, like I said, book Student of Love. You'll see all the stuff as I begin to promote that soon. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, I'm going to plant this seed right now. I'm going to need everybody, and I mean every one of y'all, to buy this book once that thing is released in pre-orders. I want y'all to blow the publisher's mind. I want, the minute I drop that link, go spend maybe $25, $26, between $25 and $30. That ain't nothing. That is the easiest way to show me. Thank you, Laterras. I just want to bless you and buy this book. And in turn, it's going to bless you, because when I tell you the gems that's in that book, I bled when I wrote this book. Bled on those pages. God is going to do some amazing work through this book. Watch what I tell you. Watch what I tell you. I know y'all saw last week Gary Chapman praying over this book before it was even written. The only thing that was written at that moment was the proposal. And that prayer fueled me as that, I guess that book bad. I ain't gonna lie, it's bad. So the whole publishing company, they excited. They like, oh my God, we believe this is gonna be huge. And so I want y'all to just buy the book to show them that y'all rock with me, period. Then we'll hit that New York Times bestsellers list. We'll celebrate. I'll end up doing book tours through cities all across the United States. I want to come to some islands and go to South Africa and all that. I want y'all to pull up on me. But the way that happens, and I'm going to tell y'all, the way that happens is when y'all support it in pre-sales and pre-orders. Y'all start hitting Amazon and wherever you get your books from. You start buying those books. It makes the publisher get excited and say, oh, now we got to create a wider reach. So I'm going to tell y'all that. Another thing that I did, I want y'all to hear this, is as y'all noticed throughout the last 5 years of my podcast, I've always brought other authors on to promote their books. I did it because I always believe in sowing where you want to go. So I sow where I want to go. And so I kept sowing, amplifying other people's books, telling y'all to go support their books, while I was believing God to open up the doors for me to have my own book. And here it is. So support it. Hey, listen, thank y'all for listening to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. And next up is, I'm going to share the letter that I wrote to my future wifey. Y'all be blessed.
Stay tuned to the end for a letter to my future wifey.
Been writing these love letters to you.
Ladarian, thrusted suddenly into Child Protective Services in 2015. My nephew, Black, a boy. The likelihood of being adopted outside of kinship, slim to none. Armani, 16 years old, Black, a boy, with 5 years in the foster care system before I even knew his name. The likelihood of ever being adopted, yep, you guessed it, slim to none. While Ladarian and Armani were trying to survive and barely thrive in an overpopulated and underfunded foster care system, I was living my own life, doing well professionally. Having been a single father with a daughter who at that point was doing well in college, it was my time to live my life, right? Wrong. I felt unsettled, tireless, agitated. There are just too many of our Black children stuck in ambiguity and in the limbo of the foster care system. In 2017, I legally adopted my nephew, Ladarian. Fast forward to 2019, I had no ties to this other young king, but I felt God instructed me to adopt him also, and I obeyed. Starting over with parenting should have been enough, right? Working with various foster care and adoption agencies to help bring awareness to the countless young Black kings in the foster care system should have decreased my agitation, right? Joining the board of directors of Advantage Adoption, an organization that helps find permanent adoptive homes for children in foster care, should have led to some type of resolve, right? No, not at all. None of it felt like I had done enough. I now realize that every one of those experiences was laying the fundamental foundation for my life's mission, Kingdom Royale. Kingdom Royale will be a luxury, state-of-the-art home for foster boys. Our first location will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We will utilize the whole person approach that instills identity, empowers them to advocate for themselves, and enlightens them regarding new perspectives and limitless options that they thought were impossible. Though the young kings will attend the local public schools that are in proximity to Kingdom Royale, our at-home curriculum will broaden their worldview through participating in the arts, attending various cultural events, learning about and engaging in multifaceted discussions about current events and even relevant historical context, introducing them to gardening and landscaping and even caring for our animals on our farm and on-site stables. We just launched our Startup Capital campaign with the goal of raising $2.8 million. Now, why $2.8 million? Well, in 2017, I created a web series in which I performed random acts of kindness for targeting the homeless community. One of the most notable successes was that one of the videos went viral, garnering 28 million views. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't raise a single dollar to help in implementing a more sustainable plan for the homeless community. So throughout the years, with much remorse, I reflected on not maximizing that moment. I knew if at that time, just 10% of the viewers donated $1, we would have raised at least $2.8 million that could have really established long-term support for the homeless community, or at least started a long-term initiative to do so. This is my do-over. This is our new beginning. Together, we can attack this at the root by specifically helping our homeless Black boys who are already disproportionately represented in the American foster care system. I'm Laterras R. Whitfield. I've been nominated for 3 regional Emmys documenting my work with the homeless as well as my personal adoption journey. Despite those accolades, the greatest award for me is truly providing the infrastructure for a transformed life. Visit kingdomroyale.com for more details. Crown a king and make a donation today.
So here's my favorite part of the podcast where I speak to my future wifey. Dear future wifey, one day soon the doors will open and there you'll be, wrapped in grace, beauty, and the answered prayer I've whispered for years. The music will swell. The crowd will rise and time will hold its breath as I watch you take that sacred walk towards forever. Our wedding will be more than a ceremony. It will be a ministry that will vibrate across the universe, a living reminder that hope doesn't disappoint, that love, even when delayed, is never denied, that the right love in the right season brings healing to every broken place. On that day, when our hands meet and our vows echo heaven's intention, I pray our union preaches a sermon without words, that every soul in the room feels the presence of promise fulfilled, that someone's faith and love is revived, that someone dares to believe again. You are the perfect person to do this with. Your strength and your unwavering faith is everything I prayed for. But what humbles me most is your quiet power. The way you've gracefully chosen to remain hidden, to be our mystery bride, trusting the unveiling to God's timing and design. Your humility is stunning. And finally, you will make your grand entrance. And at that time, the world will not only see beauty, they'll witness destiny. Your future hubby.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.